Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Parashat Pointers. We delve into the weekly Parasha and we look for inspiration for ourselves. I want to thank for our dedication this week. It's dedicated in honor of Rabbi Doniel Cohen from YDE, who does such an amazing job with all our kids. Thank you. This week's Parasha is unbelievable. It's chock filled with so much for us to learn from. But one of the things that it talks about is right in the beginning, the lighting of the candles, the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash. Of course, this was Aharon's job, and all the Mefarshim, all the commentators are puzzled by the language that's used. It should say lahadlik when you go to light the menorah. Why does it say Behaalotecha, lehalot, to raise up? What does that mean? And Rashi right away gets on the bandwagon and he says it means something very special. It means that it's not enough to just light it and walk away. You have to stay there, light that candle until you're sure that the flame is staying strong. Of course, when we raise our children, we're given an unlit candle. You have to light that neshama. But you don't just run away. You got to stay there. You got to give the support. And I want to talk about this. It's important. You got to stay there. And when they start their connection to Judaism, you have to make sure that their connection to Judaism is strong. So they need that support in the beginning. If you run away, the flame that was just kindled might go out. So a person who's taking his first steps, he needs that support. He needs encouragement until he remains burning by himself. And of course, our children need that support, right? At the same time, I want to focus on a different point. There also comes a time where you have to take away the flame. If you stay there too long, you will put out the fire. So of course you have to stay there. You got to give that support. You got to hold up that in the candle, make sure the flame is going and burning. But if you stay there too long, and the whole thing is going to just smother and go out. So it's important to understand this point. That of course you got to stay there and hold the flame, but you got to know when to pull away also. We got to know when to let go. I heard an amazing story. Two people came to the rabbi, a couple, a man and a wife. They're having a brit milah in a few days, and they had a baby boy. And they came and told the rabbi. First, the father spoke. He says, I want to name the boy Moshe after my grandfather. He was a beautiful man. He was a great man. He did a lot of charitable deeds. I want to name this boy Moshe. And now the rabbi looks at the wife and says, so, and what do you want to call the child? She says, I want to call him Moshe, after my grandfather. He was a rough guy. He stole. He did some rough stuff, but he was my grandfather, and I want to name him Moshe. I don't want to name him after my grandfather. The rabbi says, it was an interesting question. So you both want to call him Moshe? You want to name him after your grandfather? After yours. I need a day to think about this. The next day, they come back, and the rabbi looks at them and says, I came up with the answer to your question. I believe that you should call the child Moshe. So they both look at the rabbi and say, after who? After my grandfather or her grandfather? He says, he'll have to tell us himself after which grandfather he's being named. The idea is that each child at a certain point has to make a name for himself. As parents, we have to give our children room to grow. In my living room, by the way, there was a beautiful house plant. And it was in a small pot, and it was a small house plant. And when we changed the pot to a bigger size, the thing exploded in size. It got so big because it had room to grow. It's perfectly acceptable to allow your child to experience the consequences of their actions. If they decide to bypass doing homework, don't try to save them by writing a letter to excuse them. If a teenager scratches a card, let him pay for it. It's okay. You don't have to be there at every single, and smother them and make sure that you never let go. You can let go. You can let them live life and learn. When performing mitzvot, we want to see our children follow the path of Torah. We have to know the difference between training and forcing. For example, when a young boy starts to wear tzitzit at a young age, it becomes part of his routine. However, if he's not accustomed to wear it, we need to create the desire and motivation for him to want to do it. By simply forcing it upon him, he's going to feel smothered. He might come to resent the mitzvot. Let's do our part to guide our children, but ensure that we give them the space they need. And we should see a lot of nachat from all our children. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we should have a Shabbat Shalom.